America, built on slavery and genocide. Washichu, the Lakota word for settler, the Lakota word for white man, the Lakota word for terrorist. Washichu, English translation, fat taker. When Lakota people first encountered European settlers, they took the best parts of the meat, including the fat, for themselves, and left everyone else to fight over the scraps. Washichu, the Lakota word for the first Americans, the fat takers. European settlers were not immigrants. European settlers were colonizers bearing the strange fruits of genocide and slavery. European settlers carved borders into my mother's body and called it America. I am indigenous to this land. Masi Chungu Lakota Cha. My existence is a threat to this nation's colonial plan. This land was our relative before you called it land. We called it mother. You called it earth. We called water life. We called women sacred. We called children sacred. We lived as relatives. America carved lines into my mother's flesh and called them borders. America put us on concentration camps and called them reservations. Drew borders and said we couldn't cross. America whitewashed my people in so much colonial propaganda. They call us Indians, and they call Washichu hero. But we aren't in India, and America is not the greatest nation in the world. We do not recognize their colonial borders. My nation's relationship to the land and our relatives are older and stronger than their colonial borders. We will outlast their bans and borders, because we always have. We will outlast their colonial tactics, because we have to. There can never be a ban on stolen land. Indigenous people open up our arms and our motherlands to our relatives from other nations. She is their mother too. There can never be a ban on stolen land. No justice on stolen land. She is their mother too.
We are calling for an end to bans and walls. We want to open our hearts and borders. We celebrate the living stories of perseverance, the great human struggle to survive. We are a country of refugees, of freedom fighters. No one is illegal. We have been in this clash. Hell, black folks are refugees from our American tyranny, as are the first people of this land. Indigenous communities who have survived genocide and the banning of ritual, stories carried across time. We scream with hearts open to burst the barriers of propaganda. We crash through rhetoric and thunder with drums of resistance. We watch our children dance defiantly. The struggle continues. It is multi-layered and complex, and yet it is simple. We recall the 1951 UN Refugee Convention. No one can be banned based on their nation, their religion. We call on the laws of our land. We call on the highest spirit of our people. We call out this administration for what it is. Racist, white supremacists, wicked, greedy gangsters in suits without concern for justice, for humanity, for the breath of family, for the very water we need to survive. Water is life, for the pulse of what connects us all. So we take to the streets, we shut down Terminal 4. We are waiting for those who have been detained. We are here to let them know we are with you. Our chants are a bomb. As children, grandmothers, scholars emerge from being detained, dehumanized. We shout, we scream, we say let them in. We demand that compassion is showed for those fleeing war. No father should have to abandon his 12-year-old daughter. The brother who works at my local deli telling me his wife cannot join him. This has never been about security or safety. It is about the preservation of the elite. It is the insecurity and madness of capitalism. I'm in the streets chanting no ban, no wall. I'm surrounded by Muslims, Jews, atheists, students, elders, families, children. We are New Yorkers and we are fed up. We are celebrating. We are resisting, we are accumulating, congregating, amplifying our hearts. We are bursting into the streets. We are sounding off. We are sounding off.
What's up? This is His Lordship in the building. I see my family showed up first. What's good? Check 1 2. Had to do that sound check. This is a song called Let Them In. It's on Tokyo Don Records, TokyoDon.net. Can't go wrong. They got the most high quality, most polished independent music I've heard for the past 20 years. And yeah, this is a remix, I think. Let me see. Key Deadman was first in the building. And then we have Smoothie Lady, long time no see. And this show is a continuation from the last show. Alright. But, you know, before I get into that, it's not going to be long. I'm just going to shoot some dates at the end. I'm just going to shoot out some dates and just finish up on my point from the last show. And the last show was basically, you know, we were talking about sound and frequency, right? So we're gonna do a little experiment. Right now, there's subsonic frequencies playing in the background. So anybody that's listening to the show and have a subwoofer, they'll be able to hear it. If you don't have a subwoofer, if you're listening to it through a phone or a laptop speaker or something like that, you won't be able to hear the sound. But if you got a 5.1 surround sound system or higher, there is a sound playing that you'll be able to pick up because it's in the subsonic range. Okay. Yeah, it might have been us. You never know. You know, it might have been. You know, we on Pandora and all that stuff. We're heavy, and you know, because we've been out there. You know, we chose to hit the internet first instead of the streets. So we've been out there for a long time. We kind of grandfathered it in. You know, we used to be on the first live streaming network. There was only one in Germany, and then they moved another office to America, and but the name of it I keep forgetting. But yeah, so you know, a lot of people don't know the difference between frequency and sound. And I dropped a gem on the last show. I said, look, if your kicks are not tuned when you make a beat, you're never going to have a decent mix. And just because your song is loud doesn't mean that it sounds good. You just have a loud sound, and a lot of independent producers try to go for loudness, and they'll do anything to make it loud. But what you should go for is how pleasant it is to the ear. If you have to turn it down some for the track to be more pleasing to the ear, then you need to turn it down. And if your kick is out of tune, the mix is never going to be right. You're just going to have to lie to yourself and say, well, you know, it's hip hop anyway. It ain't got to be perfect. I want it rough anyway. You know what I'm saying? I like it rugged. You know what I'm saying? Plus, nobody ain't complaining. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but your sound still sound like a demo, and they gonna always keep it in the lo-fi category. So when I mentor young producers and stuff like that, what I try to explain to them is two things that is very hard to explain. Like you was trying to explain air to someone, you know, or color to a blind person, or air to a deaf person. So when I try to explain dynamics and frequency to a young producer or older producer, it's very hard to convey what I'm talking about. Oh, okay. Well, it might be a remix, Key Devin. It might be one because uh, most I do most of the vocal collaborations, but it could have been other vocalists that we had on the project. They got remixed too. So yeah, you're gonna have to let me hear that one or something. But for you people who have an interest in sound production, because you need to know this stuff even for your own show. If you're doing your own show, like I said, right now I'm looping a track in the background from Marvin Gaye, but I got a filter on it, and I'm only allowing the lower end of the sounds to play out. So if you don't have a subwoofer, you can't hear the track that's behind me in the background. You can hear it a tiny bit, like it sounds like some music coming from downstairs or upstairs. But if you had a subwoofer, you could hear the the fullness of it. So anyway, if a young producer, or when I say young, I mean new to producing, not like in age, if they can understand dynamics, and if they can understand the difference between sounds and frequency, you got it made. And so what happens is young producers don't even think about frequency. They don't even know. The word don't even exist, but sound do. And then when they try to control a sound with a sampler or whatever, they only worried about the loudness of it and the sound quality of it and how it's going to stand out in the mix, right? But believe it or not, there's a frequency chart, and almost every common instrument in a band or in a drum mix or hip hop beat, there is an actual place in the frequency range where that sound belongs. And if you keep everything in this proper frequency range, you will always have a good mix. You see what I'm saying? Because when you have your music to go get mastered, the mastering facility is not a hospital for mixes. It's not an emergency room. It's not a trauma center for mixes. Believe it or not, you're supposed to give the mastering facility your mix all ready to go, buffed and polished, just like an astronaut being placed in a spaceship. He should be flight ready. Your music should be flight ready. The only thing a mastering facility is doing for you is giving you a second opinion. And you absolutely correct. Frequency is the hertz. You're absolutely correct. Sound can be described in two ways: by frequency or pitch, and by their intensity or loudness. Okay, so pitch or loudness, intensity. Now, frequency is the number of vibrations or sound waves per second, and it is measured in hertz, like Key Deadman said. Intensity, loudness is the amount of energy of a vibration and is measured in decibels. So sound is measured in decibels when you see the letters dB back to back, a lowercase d and a capital B. And frequency is measured in hertz. And that's why, somebody that can sing in a high-pitched vibrato voice can break a crystal glass. Okay? And also, somebody standing too close to a subwoofer at an outdoor concert or a rave, and the engineer doesn't know what he's doing, and the guy has a bad heart or something, he can have a heart attack standing too close to a subwoofer. You can actually be taken out. Isn't that crazy? Well, at least you had the course. I had to have many embarrassing moments to hey, let me go do some research. I had to, you know what I'm saying? Now, frequency is perceived by a human as pitch, and the sound intensity is the amplitude Now, humans can only hear a specific range of sound, usually between 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz. The factors that go into sound are its intensity, frequency, and overtone, which are like interference or background noises. Now, when I go buy some headphones or when I used to go buy a cassette to record on, I always check the type of metal they use in the headphones because it lets you know. And then it tells you the headphone frequency range. And usually it would say from 20 to 30,000 hertz. Now, here it says our normal listening range is 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, but that's a ballpark figure. Everybody listens a little less or a little better than each other. So when you get headphones that's more than 20,000 hertz, you know you got some headphones that's going to sound really good. Now, you might go see some cheap headphones in the store, and it might just say 30 to 15,000 hertz or 30 to 10,000 hertz. I would never buy headphones under 20,000 hertz, 20 to 20,000 hertz. And what made me not want to buy Dre's Beats and stuff is because the box, there was no paperwork, and the box never told you what was the frequency range on the headphones. And when you walk into a store like Best Buy, the wires go beneath the counter, and you can't see what the wires are plugged into. And so when they hide what the wires are plugged into, that makes me think they're using an amplifier. So underneath the counter, they're using an amplifier to enhance the sound experience of the headphones. So yeah, you can't trust anything these days. You see what I'm saying? They're using technology to help create more illusions to, you know what I'm saying? To kind of fool you. You know what I'm saying? On these products. But they've been doing it. They did it with light. You know, like when you go on the showroom floor in a car dealership, that car looks good. Not only because of the paint and it's new, it's the $50,000 lighting that they have on the car too. You know what I'm saying? Oh, good. I'm sure your headphones got a great frequency range, and if you look at the back or the box and read the frequency range, now you know what you're looking at, because even with the cassette, it would say the tape bias or the saturation ceiling would be this frequency or that frequency. That's why I used to buy TDK and Maxwell and those all the time. And actually, I used to get Maxwell, TDK, reel-to-reels and all that stuff too. So yeah. Oh, Larita is in the building. How you doing? You just walked in time. I'm just gonna wrap up what I was saying previously about sound inside the churches, and I'm using churches as an example, but any type of theater that has plays and music and stuff like that. You know, the opera house is so acoustically designed that you really don't need speakers in the opera house, but you do to enhance the listening experience. But seventh row center is one of the most expensive seats in the opera house, because seventh row center is where the sound is designed to precisely hit. So you at the perfect height from the floor to the ceiling. You at the perfect distance from the stage to the middle of the theater, and that's why seventh row center is the ideal spot for any theater, especially if you want to buy season tickets. But it's not going to be cheap. You see what I'm saying? So, and like I said, to prove to you, I got a track playing in the back. I'm gonna change the frequency on the filter. All right. Now, I left it at a little bit higher frequency just in case you might be able to hear it now, but I had it down in the subsonic frequency range for the past 3 or 4 minutes. Now, my uncle was a professional musician and a teacher, and he had the new church built specifically for sound. Yeah, it's I mean, it's gonna sound weird, but of course you can have church without sound, without a building. But once you have sound, you've added a phenomenon into the picture. And if you know how to control that phenomenon and you understand the mathematics and the features of that phenomenon or technology, that natural technology, you can use that to do good or to do bad or to enhance something that you're trying to convey. Because I'm gonna tell you, I'm very macho. I'm a man, but the right song can move me in the church. The right song can bring me to tears because of the notes, the key of the song, and the frequencies involved. And that's why I was saying that the B3 Hammond is a very powerful organ, and they have this box that has bass, treble, and mid-range, but it also can hit the subsonic frequencies. And I'm looking for a picture. I thought I had this labeled very well. Oh, okay, maybe I did. Okay. Get these pictures out the way. Okay, now I'm gonna put this on the screen. Let me see what you're saying. Oh, you need to put your pause on for this. Okay. And the new church has been the choice for a lot of professional gospel concerts. Yes, because you want your music to be conveyed in the best way possible, because you're trying to send a message to touch the spirit that's going to tweak the human equilibrium, and it's going to put you in a certain mind state. For some it will be permanent, and for others it'll be temporary, and then for others it won't be no effect at all. Now you see this church diaphragm, this is the layout for sound. Everywhere where those blue markers are speakers and stuff like that. And I'm looking for this other picture. Oh, that's cool. My uncles had a band, and they had a big influence on me too for music. That's why I got into the saxophone. And then my grandfather's sister married Count Basie. And that's why everybody wanted to be musicians, because they were like, "Oh, Count Basie," So look, this is hanging from the ceiling of that church diaphragm that I showed you. This is hanging from the ceiling, and right there it says subwoofer. Yep, it says, hold on. It says it has between 28 and 85 hertz, one of them, and it's a Tannoy 18-inch subwoofer, and it's hanging from the ceiling. Now in your house, most subwoofers are on the floor, and it's hidden. They put them on the floor, but if for some reason in the church they put the subwoofers in the air. All right, and like I said before, home studios and home theaters had surround sound. Before discotheques and rock roadhouses before they had subwoofers, the church already had What's up, woofers? You see what I'm saying? Which is the trip. They really want to to deeply move you. You see what I'm saying? Now, in this picture right here, you can see that this old vintage Hammond Leslie woofer. This is it's 100 watts or something like that, but it's a 12-inch woofer. But this is what was connected to the B3 Hammond organ, going all the way back to the 70s, if not the 60s. This little box was the key to putting out the lowest frequencies from the organ, which had an effect on people. Because, like I said, churches say they don't use worldly notes; they only use secular notes. So, if you're going to separate notes into two groups, like worldly and secular, that means the worldly notes really don't have an effect on the people like the secular notes. But today, the worldly notes do have an effect on the people, but it's negative. But I guess that the secular notes, there's no way that you can accidentally bring a negative vibe with the secular notes. Like, they eliminate all the possibilities to create a evil atmosphere. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, you remember that? Now, right next to it is a update to the Hammond, the B3 Hammond. This is like some modern B3 Hammond, but look, it's used and it still goes for $19,000. And that old school Hammond Leslie speaker box, that still goes for $1,700. You see what I'm saying? So, because if you got a Hammond organ in your church, you'll never be broke. That's all I'm saying. You'll never be broke. So yeah, let me cut this off. Now, let me see. Yeah, it has a fan inside because the sound spins around to cause a certain effect. And usually before you can even hear the sound come out, you will hear the organ player turn on the fan first before he start playing the song, and then when the song is over, he turns the fan off. You know what I'm saying? So let's see here. That young lady, she was about to introduce Irvin Van Sertima. But before we get into Irvin Van
United Smart Broadcasters Collective.
But before we get into Irvin Van Sertima, I want to run a date by you. All right? And before I run this date by you, I need to refill my glass of lemonade. So I'm just gonna run about 20, 25 dates by you that's important to Black history, and just to refresh our memory of blacks that came here as indentured servants that wasn't slaves, blacks that traveled with Columbus and things like that, and we're not gonna go back to the they came before Columbus theories and stuff like that. I mean, we could get into that. And I thought the song was interesting that I played at the beginning that touched on that. It was from an Indian perspective, and but I'm gonna rock this track just for a second while I refill my glass of lemonade, and I'll be right back.
Of those that have flashed by my dream screen. My pops, he took me to the village gate where I heard Tito Puente play the liberation of the timbale. We split walking down McDougal where Ginsberg, Dylan, Lenny, and Hendrix took the risk and stoked the fires of imagination. Jimmy said, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. We walked to Washington Square Park, where the folkies gathered singing their union songs, and where later hip-hop heads ciphered under the tutelage of freestyle masters like Supernatural. We who were raised in the cipher, the circle, a lyrical ritual where protests and pop parades and jazz danced. We walk up to Union Square, where unions met, speaking out in the name of justice, where we rock against racism, where I first saw the Fugees, and now the legendary ciphers, where the dancers channel spirits, where Occupy gathered, challenged the 1%, and where the fences still are, where Black Lives Matter, and where many years before we marched for Amadou Diallo. I sit a witness of a vigil, a cipher where women of color speak their truth. We walk cross town to Thompson Square Park, where riots span generations, where voices gather in resistance. We stop in community gardens where we listen to poets howl gentrified blues.
Know your story, breath and heartbeat. Know your story, breath and heartbeat. Know who you are, know who you are. Know your story, breath and heartbeat. Know who you are, know who you are. Know your story, breath and heartbeat. Know who you are.
We head down Avenue B to the New Rican Poets Cafe, where I saw Miri Baraka and Sarah Jones, and where I first heard Badu serenade the rim shot, where Mos and Kweli Babito nurtured the boom bap. Pietro Petri said if they had only tuned out their televisions and tuned into their imaginations, where we got kicked off the block because our beatboxers shook the neighborhood. We jump on the 6 train at Bleecker, and we head up to the point in the Bronx, where universes were spitting poems and Tats Group perfecting the aerosol arts. Man, it's time to ride to Brooklyn, where I kick it with Sibba and Lester Bowie and the Philharmonic Orchestra. We hit the Brooklyn Moon. Lisa, Jesse Peterson, and Saul and Jessica Care Moore have just hit the room. We're back downtown. We stroll up Bowery to the Bowery Poetry Club. Dove is at the door, and Say Word is setting it off. I head down Houston and stop by the Ferretta School of African Dance, where Full Circle is holding court, and B-boys and girls are trained to fly. I walk down by the water, a moment of wind and space, and I head over to Wall Street, backing up Wavy Gravy in front of the stock exchange. The Nobody for President campaign is on the trail, and on our walk we pass Reclaim the Street.
Okay, we are black. We are black from the break. All right. So, check this out. The track is still playing in my headphones. I gotta stop it because it's man, operating this stuff is like operating a DC-10. Even you gotta, just because you hear the sound in your studio all perfect doesn't mean that it's coming out, over the air perfect. And you gotta, it's like you have different dimensions you have to focus on. You have to remind yourself that your studio experience might be different than the audience experience, and that's how it is for production. A producer can't think like a mixer. You know what I'm saying? A rapper can't think like a producer. If you're doing everything yourself, then you need to have the ability to take off each hat and put it on and totally take on the mind state of each of those jobs, you know. So today's show is brought to you by the portable mini UV light sanitizer wand. I just got one yesterday and it's amazing. It's by a company called Pure Tech, and I got it on sale at your friendly neighborhood Ross. Isn't that amazing? So thank you, Ross, for giving me that amazing deal on the portable UV light. I use it for everything. Everything. People think I'm some kind of agent because I be beaming everything. I beam my money. At the end of the day, I beam all the paper money. You can beam everything. Your toothbrush, sink handles, door handles, towels. When you get a soda, when you get up to the counter to pay for your stuff after the person at the cash register handle all your stuff, beam it. You can beam your steering wheel and stuff, your door handle. Because after a while, the hand sanitizer stuff just gets on your nerves, and if you use it too much, it doesn't work anymore. And all hand sanitizer is not created equal. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Yes. So, yeah. So today's show is brought to you by the portable UV light. Once you go portable UV light, you don't go back. And you can also wear it as a necklace. Isn't that amazing? Yes. But one thing I must warn you, never look directly into the light. And if you want to see something cool, beam the light over your United States driver's license, and you'll see, some of the little secret stuff that's on the license that makes sure that they know that it's real. Yeah. So yeah, you can't say I didn't leave you with any game today or any info. You can use a $2 or a $1 alcohol as a. Oh yeah, definitely. But you know me, I'm a tech. I'm Mr. High Tech. I have a infrared laser keyboard that beams the keyboard onto a table, but it don't work on glass tables, and it don't work in all situations. And you don't really want to use a white table because the reflection will bounce the laser into your eyes. But yes, I have a pocket Bluetooth laser keyboard that are good for some situations. Now my other keyboard is off the hook. My other portable keyboard, it folds up all. It's hella fancy. It comes in a little carrying bag. Mine is gold tone. It folds up into a little like rectangular strip. It really looks fancy. I don't know the name brand of it. Let me see if I can pull it out of my gear bag, because when I walk out the door, I might as well be Mr. Tech. I'm taking it out of the package. It's called GEYES. No, yeah, GEYES. I do not know how to pronounce that, but it's a I don't know. I don't want to pronounce it the way I want to pronounce it, but it's GEYES Bluetooth folding keyboard, and it turns on automatically when you unfold it, and you can sit your tablet or your phone, any size tablet or phone, on top of it, and it's really cool, and it folds up compact and look really, I just like great design. Even if I don't have a use for it, I just like any technology that's been designed well that probably doesn't look old 10 years from now. It still looks like it's just came out. But that's just me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, yeah, check it out. And the UV hand wand, you can beam one hand at a time, front and back and arm, and then whatever you want to touch, you can beam it too. It's just a UV. It's the same thing when they check your ID at the club, or they check to see if you have a mark that says you've been in a club before. To use it's a UV light, but they found out that UV lights kill 99% of germs like pneumonia and stuff like that. So that's they just couldn't find a way to charge your arm and a leg for it, but it's one of the cheapest ways to kill germs and bacteria, and you can charge it up by USB. You could charge it up in your car lighter, or you could charge it at home, but you always have something with you, because here at the theaters, when you go to the movie theaters and stuff, when you get ready to wash your hands, they have these things that with the UV light, you put your hands in it, and then boom. I remember the days when they just had a blow dryer, but now they got these these futuristic black fancy UV light things in the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm holding the Negro in American Life. Now, when a book title use the word Negro, the book is old, and that the book probably has some kind of substance to it, some kind of weight to it, that it's authentic, and I put a bookmark in here because there was some dates here that I wanted to go by, just in case people was confused about our early interest into America. And like I said, I'm skipping over the part which some people tend to ignore, that Africans was not afraid of travel on the ocean. They would carve out a whole tree, like they had these trees that was humongous, just like our old redwoods or whatever. They would cut the tree down and hollow out the inside and use that as a boat. And then they had the currents, and currents are so strong and so great, it doesn't matter if you have a sail or not. But the Africans, when they traveled, they would have, I don't know how many people, 12 to 6 to 12 people rowing, right? But half of the group will be sleeping while the other group row. And when they stop and take a nap or go to sleep, the other group is rowing. So they were rowing 24 hours to get to their destination. So, and then the closest distance between Africa and America is right there in the top right corner. Maine. From Maine to Africa is the shortest distance between our continent and their continent. You see what I'm saying? So, of course, you don't have to wait for Columbus. You don't have to wait for Columbus to come here. Africans and Chinese have been traveling to this continent for a very long time, when other people thought, and other groups either didn't have the sailing technology, or they didn't have the mapped, so they would get lost, or they thought the earth was square, or they thought whales were dragons and they was afraid of getting eaten by dragons on the ocean, so they rather not sail. Because before outer space being the new frontier, I know this seems odd, but the ocean was just as a mystery as outer space, and it still is when you go into the ocean. Now, we might know much about the surface of the ocean and think we got that mapped out with the satellite cameras, but there's a such thing as like inner space, basically inside the ocean. We don't know that much. We don't know much about inside of our ocean. And believe it or not, inside of our ocean, we have lakes. You'd be like, how can a lake be inside of an ocean? Because the ocean is already water. Well, we exist in different levels of water. We are in water now. It's just that the water that we're in is very small. It's more oxygen than helium. But as you step into something that has more helium, then it's more liquefied. So it's different densities of water. So, but if you really look at it, the layer of oxygen of H2O that we're in right now. Oh, did I get that right? Let me check with Key Dead Man. All right, but the layer that we're in right now is very, very thin. It's very, very thin, but you wouldn't be able to see it unless you was in a helicopter or if you climbed a mountain like K2. K2 is so high that once you reach a certain height, you cannot even be rescued. You cannot even be rescued because the oxygen is too thin for a helicopter to climb that high. And at that height and level, the weather is very unstable because the mountain creates its own weather system. And you could instantly end up in some kind of blizzard storm and freeze to death and die. And there were so many bodies up at K2 after a while that they had to hire a Japanese company to remove the bodies. And, luckily the guide job was to carry your feces back down the mountain, but the piss they would leave up. So imagine climbing K2 and you have to climb over bodies and piss to get to the top. And there's a lot of yellow stained snow up at K2, and it's unfortunate because it cost the average person $60,000 to climb K2, one of the highest mountains, or at least in the top 2 or top 3. And they should call it CEO Mountain because mostly CEOs can afford to climb the mountain. And for example, Google CEO died climbing K2, but he died at base camp, which is unheard of. It is unheard of. So I'm thinking some government organization triggered an earthquake in Nepal or whatever and caused the avalanche, knowing that avalanche would come down and wipe out the campsite at base camp and killed the Google CEO. But that's just my theory. Who am I? I'm just a YouTuber. You know what I'm saying? So let me refresh my chat room just in case I'm missing something. Yep, I was missing something. Yeah, the higher you go, that sometimes you have to take oxygen with you. Sometimes people have to be in an air pressure. They have like a air pressure bag for you to, in case you start getting sick. Because I have a friend who's Negro who loves to climb mountains and stuff like that. So he had crevasse training. For those of you that know about crevasses, he used to climb Mount Rainier and stuff. And before you can climb Mount Rainier, you must be certified in how to get out of a crevasse. I'm cool. I'm cool on that. But yeah, our atmosphere is just as thin as a blanket on the bed compared to the mattress and the box spring. Our atmosphere is just a blanket, So this says some important events in Negro history. So I'm just gonna read off the dates. I need to need more light. So the worst thing in radio is dead air. So let me go turn this light on. It'll only take a second. Okay. Thank you, Isaac Hayes. Thank you, Isaac Hayes. So, let's see here. In Peru, I think they chew cocaine leaves to help with that. Yeah, I've heard about that. There's they don't want to tell you about the pros and cons of stuff. The pros and cons of hemp leaves and hemp and all of the above. When also that substance was there was a time when that substance was $1 an ounce and it was legal in America when alcohol was illegal. But we won't go into that. So 1492, Alonso Pietro, captain of the Nina, sailed with Columbus expedition to America. Pietro is identified as a Negro by some historians. Now, 30 Negroes. This I'm gonna try to keep my composure because this is not funny, but we don't use the word Negro anymore. But 30 Negroes. I mean, how do you start out a sentence with 30 Negroes? But in 1513, 30 Negroes were on a part of a Balboa expedition, which crossed Panama and discovered the Pacific Ocean. In 1519, the army of Hernando Cortez conquered the Aztec Indians in Mexico. Negroes were a part of this expedition. Okay. In 1539, Esteban, or Stephen, also called Estevanico or Little Stephen, explored the western region of North America through what is now known as Arizona and Mexico. In 1619, 20 Africans arrived at Jamestown, Virginia, and became indentured servants. That was 1619, and they were not slaves. And after 7 years, they can own their own business. They can buy their own house. They can have their own indentured service working for them. They could trade. They could do international trade. They was free to do whatever. This is 1619. Now, 1624, William Tucker was born. He was the first Negro child to be born in the land that was later to become the United States. That was 1624. 1663, first serious slave conspiracy of a Negro slave and white indentured servants in Gloucester County, Virginia. The plot was betrayed by a house servant. And then, of course, this famous one, 1731, Benjamin Banneker, mathematician, astronomer, and one of the planners of the Washington, D.C., was born in Maryland. Now, Benjamin Banneker, they had lost the designs to Washington, D.C. They had moved from Philly to Washington to D.C. to build Washington, but they lost the architectural designs. Well, guess who had the designs memorized? And if he didn't, he still had a great design. So either he was telling the truth, he had it memorized, because who would know? Who would say, nah, I don't remember that in the plans? But Benjamin Banneker, a black man, possibly a Moor, remembered the designs for Washington and finished the project. Also, he designed grandfather clocks. He practically invented grandfather clocks. He was fascinated with watches. And some say that the clock in England called Big Ben is called Big Ben because it was named after Benjamin Banneker. Isn't that a trip? He did the designs, but the story goes that they lost the designs and they had no way of knowing what to do. But Benjamin said, I have the designs memorized. I can help you finish this project. I'm sure they tried to steal his work, and they didn't leave him a big monument in D.C. Out of all the people that they have honored in D.C., you have to look long and hard for Benjamin Banneker's tribute. And one of the reasons why I know this is because Uncle Black went to D.C. and he looked for the Benjamin Banneker, recognition, and there was only a few locations, and it was just a small tribute to him in these locations, and you wouldn't know it was there unless you was led to it, which is a shame. Oh, I heard that. He deserves full credit. He was a very smart man, and not only he was a great engineer of design, but he was a mathematician and an astronomer, and a lot of credits to his name. Now, in 1760, Richard Allen, a founder of the African Methodist Church, the Methodist Episcopal Church, was born a slave in Philadelphia. All right, Richard Allen, the founder of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Now, in 1962, James Durham, first American Negro doctor, was born in Philadelphia. So, when we want to, debate over certain things that we need to be recognized for and understand, about things about our past, those things are important. But at this point, what is it going to do for us right now? But knowing how somebody went from being an indentured servant or an immigrant or a slave and still managed to become this other great person against all odds and their circumstances, is amazing, because the reason why your upper shoe attached to your bottom shoe more efficiently is because that this guy from South Africa that came here free invented a machine called a latching machine, which doubled the gross national product. If they was making I don't know, if they were making 125 million a year off of shoes, when he invented this machine, they was making 250 million a year, because at the time by hand they could only make about 30 or so shoes a month, maybe 50 shoes a month. Okay, so anyway, Frederick Douglass is a good example also. Well, you know what? Frederick Douglass might be on this list. The only reason I'm doing this list is, and this is not an attack on anyone, this is not a direct message to anyone. There's a lot of arguments out there about our where did our life begin on this continent and stuff like that, and that's very important. But I also feel that what we did once we were trying to build this nation together, what was our contributions? Because when people say, well, our people built this country, we'll be specific. Name the companies and the tools and the manufacturers and the distributors and the people involved and who ran it. Because here are some dates with some facts right here. And I started before slavery, when blacks were entering America, and now I'm moving to slavery, and then when slavery was official, and how we were still trucking through all of this. And we can't ignore this part of our history and try to embrace a history that hasn't been properly documented, and we don't have any facts about, and we don't have nothing to learn from that except what our true identity may be, or ethnicity. But it just doesn't, but I mean, if we didn't keep whatever we had back then, what's the use of bringing it up? You're going to tell us that since we lost the fight in Africa and came into as slaves, some of us may not have came from Africa and got caught up in that bullshit. So some of us originated here But guess what? Either way it go, we still lost. If we originated here, we was outgunned, outnumbered. If we came from over there, it was they used technology and techniques and tactics that defeated us. So let's not go there. Let's go with the contributions from the entanglement, the complications, the suffering that was there to help build this nation as a people. Because everybody had ghettos when they first ended here. The Irish, the Italians, and the Jews. Everybody had they were low class citizens. They couldn't eat same way we couldn't eat in certain places. They couldn't eat in certain places. They were all boxed in their own communities. But anyway, what we was doing and the dates and times of our entrance during this period, it's not a common thing. So I'm just saying it on my show, just in case people want to hear it and reference it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that would be amazing. It's because not only imagine going from a slave to a free man, but also imagine coming up, so like building yourself up to the point where you can own slaves yourself, right? Even though that may not be a good thing, but it was just a way of business then. And also imagine being in a town that's so small and so country that you didn't get the message that you were free. You see what I'm saying? You didn't get the message that you was free. You even told your kids they were still slaves, even though you wasn't, and you didn't realize until you was around 75 that you've been free for years, and your kids was in their early 40s, late 30s, and or some in their late 20s, realizing that they was not a slave. But but your town was so small and so far away. And then your daughter said, "Hold up. You mean to tell me, Dad, that you remember being a slave back in the day?" "Yeah. Well, I'm going to go to school for law, and I'm going to try to see if I can get you something." So this one black lady, while she was in law school, she actually tried to sue all the insurance companies that are big time today, because they made a lot of money off of insuring slaves, just like having car insurance. Some of these well-respected, trusted insurance companies that carry themselves like they're so prestigious and great, well, they kept every record of all the way back to slavery, but they will not release it. They will not admit to it. But they're very good at record keeping. And there was a black lady who went to school for law who tried to sue on her father's behalf. Unfortunately, he passed away before she was able to take them to court, and I don't think she won. But it's an interesting story that you can look up yourself. Oh yeah, well that's interesting too, especially with Dred Scott. Key that, man, because Dred Scott, his master, his final master, and had inherited him. The daughter of his master had inherited him, and she knew that if she just let him go free, that it would just be another free slave, and the rest of the slaves in the North in the South would still be slaves, and it wouldn't make a big deal. So what she did was she sold him to an activist lawyer for $1, and then that lawyer took the government to task, or to court, over Dred Scott's freedom, and because of his case, it set precedents for slaves to be free. But of course, I know you know that story. Wow, that's crazy, Marquise. Marquise came out the woodworks. I like when my intellectuals come out the woodworks. And I lost my page on these dates. I lost my page on the dates. And this is a really cool book. If you can find a copy, I'm sure it's going to be hard to find a copy of this book. But it's called The Negro in American Life, The American Negro and His Contributions to His Country. You know what I'm saying? It has pictures and everything in there. Yeah, I done lost my page, which is not cool. You could probably hear me flip through the book because I'm using a wide diaphragm condenser mic by Sterling. And you would think the dates would have. I had a huge letter sticking in there just to. Oh, here we go. I found it. But I don't remember where I was at. Oh, okay. Now, 1762, James Durham, first American Negro doctor who was born in Philadelphia. I said that. Now, 1770, March 5th, the Boston Massacre occurred, and Crispus Attucks and 4 other colonists were killed by the British soldiers. And we all know the story of Crispus Attucks. 1773, Phyllis Whitley book, Poems on Various Subjects, Religious and Moral, was published. 1775, Negro soldiers fought in the Battle of Lexington and conquered. Later, they took part in the Battle of Bunker Hill. In 1777, Vermont abolished slavery within its borders, and it was the first state to do so. In 1787, the Free African Society was organized in Philadelphia by Richard Allen and Absalom Jones. The Northwest Ordinance prohibited slavery within the Northwest Territories. Boom. That's 1787. So, the blacks in the North after 1787 had a totally different experience from the blacks in the South. So it was like 2 countries in one. We must not forget this. So everybody's situation wasn't completely dire, but it was sad and on either way. But there were more opportunities for you in the North, and if you're already in the North, you had a better chance. It was you can almost see the light at the end of the tunnel. So in 1793, the Fugitive Slave Law was passed by Congress, making it unlawful to harbor a runaway slave. In 1794, Richard Allen and others organized the Bethel American Methodist Episcopal Church. Now, I have a connection to that church. And now that I see this church in this book from 1794, my wig is completely blown because this church is very, very significant. I can't give the details, but this church helped slaves to freedom. And I want you to know that this church has been attacked by the Klan and stuff like that. This church has even been attacked by natural causes, earthquake and things like that, and had to be rebuilt. But I want you to know today that this church from 1794 is still helping black people today, especially during this pandemic and this quarantine. and I can tell you that I am a official witness to that. I'm not a member of the church, but I am an eyewitness to the great things that church have done for its people. So let me check the chat room. Indeed, Marquise, I agree with you once again. You always come with the great comments on the comment list. Indeed, you're absolutely correct. And there is no news about what black organizations, whether it's religious or corporate, is doing for small black businesses and black citizens to help them through the quarantine. That's because there is no black news. There's no real black independent black media that can reach black Americans in the world on a mass scale. The opportunity is there. The infrastructure is there, but like if you have a sheep that you herd and always herd into a fence that you close, after a while you can leave that fence door open, and the sheep will still they won't walk out unless you encourage them to walk out. None of the sheep want to be the first to walk outside that fence. So you can find that your baby boomer grandparents or great grandparents or whatever is still waiting for 6 o'clock to watch the news. They're still waiting for 10 o'clock to watch the news. They still watch 60 Minutes. They're still loyal. This generation can get news when it happens, but other people, they'll call you or whatever at 7 o'clock. Did you hear about? Yeah, I heard about it when it happened. Because now you can get news that fast, but there's still people in my family and other people around me that still wait to watch the news on the TV and get it at a certain time. You see what I'm saying? I've been in Quaker tunnels in PA and formerly used for the Underground Railroad. Yeah, the Masons use those tunnels too. And some of those tunnels are boarded up in the homes that's near the docks, but they was using those tunnels when they were breaking into businesses and stuff like that, and breaking into homes and banks. And the tunnel still exists, but most homes block the tunnel in their house or have it bricked up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, there's a whole story behind those tunnels. They should do a movie behind those tunnels. I agree with you. I haven't seen it, but you got to remember, PA has a rich history. Indeed. Now, like I said, yeah, this church is it's a remarkable church. So 1797, Sojourner Truth, leading Negro abolitionist, was born a slave in Hurley, New York. Now, in the 1800s, Gabriel Prosser planned his unsuccessful slave revolt. Nat Turner, a later leader of slave revolt, was born in Virginia. So while Gabriel was leading a revolt, Nat Turner was born. And of course, later on, he did his thing too, which is a trip. In 1614, Negro troops, as well as white, fought in the Battle of New Orleans under the command of General Andrew Jackson. In 1817, Frederick Douglass, there was a mention in the chat room about Frederick Douglass, abolitionist, lecturer, and author, was born a slave in Maryland. 1816. In 1822, Denmark Vesey organized a slave rebellion in Charleston, South Carolina. The plans were revealed to authorities and the revolt did not take place. Now, there is a lot of dates And I don't know if I can make it through all these dates. It ain't that many, but I'm just gonna read a few more, and I'm gonna check out. I can't do it because now the quarantine, where they lowered they're allowing businesses to open. So yesterday we was cleaning up. Only one person came by, one or two people, but I expect a lot more today, and I want to be fresh for tomorrow because I've been at the same Negro business for quite a long time. I don't want to be specific. I don't want to dox myself, but I've worked with my people for at least 3 decades in the same location, but I've worked for other businesses that were black prior to that. But where I'm at now, at the same location, I've been there for quite a long time. Even though we're black and the business is black, we're not limited to black customers. Matter of fact, in order for us to survive, we have to have as many non-black customers as possible based on the demographics. But anyway, 1826, John Russwurm, first Negro college graduate in the United States, received his degree from Bowdoin College, or Bowdoin. 1827, Freedom's Journal, the first Negro newspaper, was published in New York, and John Russwurm and Samuel Cornish were the editors. Now, in 1831, William Lloyd Garrison newspaper, The Liberator, first appeared, and Nat Turner's rebellion took place. Boom. 57 persons were killed before Nat Turner was captured and put to death. In 1839, Robert Smiles, a hero of the Civil War and Reconstruction congressman, was born a slave in South Carolina. And also Blanche Casio Bruce, future United States Senator and first Negro to serve a full term, was born a slave in Virginia. And in 1847, the first copy of the North Star Frederick Douglass newspaper appeared. You see what I'm saying? Now, I haven't read this before, so I'm kind of curious of the dates, but I don't have the attention span to read all the way to the end. I don't know if I said that. Let me see. I see what you're saying too, Key Dad, man. Let me see. I was reading kind of fast, so no, that was 2 separate sentences. 1814, Negro troops, as well as whites, fought in the Battle of New Orleans under the command of General Andrew Jackson. Now, in 1817, Frederick Douglass, an abolitionist, lecturer, and author, was born a slave in Maryland. So yeah, I didn't say Frederick Douglass. He was a writer, not a fighter. You know what I'm saying? In 1849, Harriet Tubman escaped from slavery in Maryland, and she later led over 300 slaves to freedom on the Underground Railroad. Now, in 1852, March 20th, Harriet Beecher Stowe's novel Uncle Tom's Cabin, and it was published then. So in 1856, Booker T. Washington, famous educator and Negro leader, was born a slave in Virginia. And Wilberforce University was founded in Ohio. Okay. What a name, Wilberforce. Now, we mentioned Dred Scott earlier. In 1857, the Dred Scott decision was given by Supreme Court, and the decision ruled that Negroes were not citizens. And in 1859, John Brown led the raid against Harper's Ferry in Virginia. And in 1862, Robert Smalls, slave sailor of South Carolina, delivered the Confederate warship, the Planter, into the hands of the Union Navy. In 1863, January 1st, President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. In 1865, the Freedmen's Bureau was established to help refugees and freed slaves. December 18th, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which abolished slavery in the United States, was adopted. In 1866, Fisk University was opened in Nashville, Tennessee. In 1867, Howard University was opened in Washington, D.C. Morehouse College was founded in Atlanta, and the Ku Klux Klan held the first national meeting at Nashville, Tennessee. So, there is a lot more dates here. And I just don't have the energy right now to read through it. But skipping through it, it says 1877, Frederick Douglass was appointed Marshal of the District of Columbia, and Harry O. Flipper became the first Negro to graduate from West Point. All right. In 1941, President Franklin Roosevelt issued Executive Order 8802, which banned racial discrimination in defense industries. And Dory Miller, Navy messman, manned the machine gun for the first time in his life to defend the battleship Arizona at Pearl Harbor. So this book, if you can look for it, I doubt if there's a digital copy. I might read more from it at another time, but it's called The Negro in American Life by Mabel Morsbach. That's Morsbach. You know what I'm saying? Wow, that's amazing, key there, man. 1921. Now, who said her grandmother was? Oh, you talking about the bonnet? I know that was classic. That was classic. Yeah, you know, I don't know why somebody works so hard. When somebody try to work hard to prove that they're sane, that's a dead giveaway of the level of their sanity. I mean, if you're sane, you don't have to prove that you're sane. You don't have to do things that give the impression that you're sane. If you're smart, it shows in your presentation, in your vocabulary, in your demeanor. You know, if you're using a search engine, a collaterally biased search engine, and you're only using one search engine, and you're not even mentioning the source of the website where you got this information from to prove your point. And she thinks that when she finds a random website on a biased search engine, if it agrees with her, she must be right. Now, for the people that don't know who we're talking about this YouTuber who she thinks in her mind, well, since you guys don't believe me, I'm going to Google it while we're live on the internet, and I'm going to read to you what they say. But she bases how legit the website is based on how professionally the website is put together. So if the website has nice pictures and and it's put together really nice. She think it's legitimate. And before she even looked it up, this YouTuber that I'm gonna keep her name anonymous, we already know the answer. And we trying to tell her what the answer is, and she feel that she's so right that she looks up the answer, and when she reads the sentence that defines the subject, she even fails to comprehend what that sentence or paragraph even meant. And at that point, I don't even know why people even mess with her. I guess they just do it for fun. You know what I'm saying? Oh, sorry to hear that, Key. But my condolences. Yeah, that was a blessing. Indeed, that was a blessing. Yeah, you know, I'm not really trying to brag, and I'm not going to lie to you that even though I have an amazing library, I was blessed to have an amazing library, I have not read all these books. It's too many. You know, doing a YouTube show like this forces me to grab one. And a couple of days ago, I just went on a search through the books to see if I could find one that was interesting. So I found one book on blacks in Martha's Vineyard, about black people being there. And the other book was the Negro in America life. Because, you know, I hear too many people talk about, you know, they just brush over our presence during that particular time. You know, early days. They, even, you know, prior to slavery and during slavery and post-slavery, they brush over that, and now they want to argue about some shit where you had to rub two rocks together to create a fire. You know, we done went past that. You know, the brother man has invented Morse code, the mobile phone, the LTE service. Is a black man. If you got LTE on your phone, that's the same guy who invented the mobile phone. He owns the LTE service on your phone. Morse code was easy to design because a djembe has many different tones, just like the talking drum. You have a drum that you squeeze with your arm and you tap on it with a stick. It's called a tapping drum. And I mean, the talking drum is an African instrument, and when people hear that drum, they can actually understand what the drum is saying to you just on the pattern. So Morse code is only one sound that doesn't change, and you either have a short tap or a long tap or silence. You either have a pause, a long tap, or a short tap, and it's the same sound. So for a black man to invent Morse code, it was just no effort. It was very simple to create. It was nothing, because when you compare Morse code to an African talking drum, it's more dynamics to it. It's more features to it. It's more pitches to it. So Morse code is a very simplified version of African drumming. And you know, African drumming was so significant that during slavery time, it was a death penalty to play the drum. So during slavery, they took our ability to communicate away, and it was a death penalty if we tried to use it. So we could, you know, predict escapes and rebellions and stuff like that. And then who knew 20 years later, they would replace our ability to naturally communicate with each other with the mobile phone and the telephone, you know, and the party lines, and you had to wait for that wheel to come back to zero. When you better hope your phone number didn't have too many 8s, 7, 8s, and 9s in it, because you have to wait forever for that thing to come back around to dial your number. But they don't know about that. Marquise, I like the show because this type of knowledge has the ability to improve the way people think about themselves. Essentially, he invented the telegraph too, then, Exactly. And then people get to contribute because I don't know it all. I don't know it all. And I know I have intellectuals in the audience. Now, where this other YouTuber went wrong, and it's a this lady means well. I actually feel sorry for her because she means well, but when she talks to her audience, she has no idea that she sounds condescending, and if she does, she don't care that she sounds condescending, and she always speak to her audience as if she's telling them something that she don't know. I mean that you don't know. But how can you? And I'm not knocking little towns because a lot of great people came out of small towns. But what I'm saying is, your town education ranks 32, right? In education in the nation, and towns that are on the near the ocean, metropolitan cities, they have higher levels of education and they have higher technology. They got fiber optics, they got all this stuff, T-lines, they got, the finest private schools. It would be arrogant of you to think that you could get online and school some city slickers on subjects that they already know about it. And then when they try to tell you that you may be misinformed, you get offended and say people are bullying and attacking you and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying. It's like, you telling me about, the sky is blue because the ocean is blue. And we in the metropolitan cities, we saying, no, you're mistaken. No, I'm right. I know I'm right. The sky is blue because the ocean is blue. And then I'm going to prove it to you. And then they go on Google. And luckily they don't find some shit that says that because it ain't true. But if they find it, they'll believe it. And then they start reading out loud. And then they realize they made a mistake. And still play the shit off and still won't concede and still won't apologize. And just say, well, I'm right and you're right. We're just saying the same thing in two different ways. And I'm like, okay. Exactly. And those those phones are, oh, you know what's funny? I'm the gadget man, right? I'm the gadget man. So I do shit. I don't even know how long ago. I think 10 years ago, I bought a phone attachment that makes my cell phone looks like a regular phone. So I can hide my phone and just use the phone attachment that looks like an old-fashioned phone from the top part. And it's not that old-fashioned, but just, it just looks like when the touch tone phones first came out, it's the top part. So when I used to drive my Benz, the car was black with black interior, but my phone was white. And I used to sit in the car on my cell phone holding the regular phone part up to my ear. I still got it. I got two different kinds. But that's just me. I'm just into, ever since I watched Space 1999 and Star Trek and Get Smart and Space Odyssey and all that stuff, I've just been into technology, But yeah, it must be a cold world when your life is so ironic and it's only because of your own self. And you created a world for yourself where you're always right. And but if you don't have any other people in that world, it doesn't matter. That's why people have cults, because in the cults, at least if you're always right to the people in your group, at least you can feel good about yourself. But when you go live on the internet and everybody exists in one world and you exist in another world in your mind, it got to be frustrating. And you do feel like, I truly believe that person believes that they're really being bullied and attacked in their mind because being corrected is a foreign concept when you think you know it all. You know what I'm saying? And for some reason, correction is an attack. And if you have a history of being corrected all your life since you was a kid, by the time you 40 something, you go, damn, I'm still being corrected after all these years. I've got to have learned something by now. So you get online and pretend like you're super, super smart and intelligent. But if we let you talk long enough, we see there are some flaws, there's some misinformation, and you say, well, I'm not a liar. Nobody calls you a liar. That was just a short form. Really, people saying this, you spreading the wrong information. You've been misinformed. We're giving you the benefit of the doubt. But if you continue to infer that what you're telling is true, that's when people call you a liar, because you know that it's misinformation, but you insist on saying that it's the truth, and that's why people call people liars. Not because they told a bold-faced lie, it's that they spreading misinformation as if it is the truth. You see what I'm saying? So wow. I do have some sound bites, but I'm trying to save them for videos. And it has nothing to do with this show. So I'm not going to play the sound bites here. But when I get offline, I'm going to work on a couple of videos to post, and you will see some very interesting quotes from a very familiar sounding YouTuber, if you get my drift. And I still haven't played Dr. Ivan Ben's Dr. Ben starts, what's his name again? Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan. I was gonna play The Black Man Must Wake Up Part 1. Feel free to look it up yourself. There's more than one part. There's part 1, and it probably goes to part 4. He was speaking at a university many years ago. This was shot in probably 16 millimeter. This was actually, he spoke at Tuskegee University. He was doing a lecture there, and it was cool. So I was gonna play it on this show, but I don't want to make it too long. But but in this video, it's from Michael Inhotep's channel, and it's The Black Man Must Wake Up Part 1, Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan. I learned about him back in minority psychology class in junior college, and I've been paying attention to him ever since. And that was back in the 90s. And he really, really breaks it down. Everything from hypocrites going to Kemet to study medicine, yet the Greeks call him the father of medicine, to the early days of the Pope Martin the Fifth in 1506, and Bartholomew de la Casa leaving, having Moors captured and taken from Spain to Hispaniola. So yeah, Marquise mentioned that that YouTuber should study Spain. Well, here you go. And everyone can learn from this one. There's part 1. I think there's probably all the way up to part 4. And this guy is brilliant. He even tell you about the 5 million African Jews in Ethiopia. And when Mussolini invaded, only 50,000 were left when he exited. So Mussolini killed 4 million 950,000 Jews in Ethiopia. It left only 50,000. I probably didn't get that number right, but close enough. So they talk about the Jews being killed by Hitler, but they don't talk about the Jews in Ethiopia being killed by Mussolini, and they were exterminated. And this is just one of our Holocausts. So if you get a chance, because I'm going to play it probably on my next show. This show was so long I had to break it up into 3 parts. But The Black Man Must Wake Up Part 1. You know, you can search that on Google. Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? That is crazy, Marquise. Now, I'm going to wait for Key Deadman to come back. But what I want to do is play the outro. And I don't know if you've seen my latest outro. It's crazy. I don't know if you've seen it, but it is off the chain. All right. All right, you back? I waited for you to come back to play this outro, E. Devin. It's my latest and greatest. So make sure you get Oh wow, okay. Yeah, well, the church that I mentioned earlier was bombed. And that church today is still helping people, still helping blacks. Oh, I feel you. I'm trying to get an early start on tomorrow. I usually don't go to bed until 5. And when I did my last live, I didn't start until 6 a.m. And then I went to bed. And then, you know, the next day I had to go. We had our first opening and I wasn't prepared, which was, you know, yesterday afternoon. So I'm cutting this show down now. But I want you guys to get close to the screen, because this is one of those Pink Floyd moments that I went. So I'm out, peace and hair grease, but check out my outro, and this is one of those Pink Floyd moments, man. You know, Matty Rich filmed straight out of Crooklyn with a handheld video camera, and Robert Townsend filmed his first movie with a handheld video card and a video camera with a credit card budget. But now, the technology for cameras that you can carry with you in your pocket, you can shoot at 5.1K. And I just want to see what a young brother could do with one of these cameras or a cell phone today when it comes to making films. I mean, they had it rough all the way back to Oscar De La Roma's show, up to Matty Rich, who did, you know, after he did straight out of Crooklyn, he went on to do Inkwell with a budget. But look, now you can have a GoPro or whatever, and you can shoot a movie in 360. I mean, we always show them what to do with their technology. We need to continue on that path. And and that being said, yeah, I need to stop being lazy and answer you. It's all good. It is all gravy, and I appreciate everybody, you know, participating in the chat room. It's not mandatory, and I'm really not hard to get along with. You know, everybody got their little pet peeve. Everybody got that little thing. It's just like the Seinfeld show. When Seinfeld, he has these little quirks about people. That's what made this show funny, because, you know, when somebody wear the same clothes every day, or pick their nose, or, you know, they still brush their teeth with a toothbrush that you knew that dropped in the toilet, but they didn't. That shit was hilarious. Yeah, likewise, I also enjoy these conversations, because that's how we build, and that's how we all learn together. And I'm tired of going to shows where they use these words that sound very poetic, and they use these words towards each other. but it really don't have no meaning. It's just to make you seem hip. You know, they got this hip slang where people use these words, but it really, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, let's do lunch. You know, when people come to, oh, okay, you went there, you took it there. I was trying not to, I was trying not to be specific, but I remember when we went to Southern California to Panama City, we was in a van. There was 6 producers, and we worked for this multimedia company, and they took us down there to meet a real Grammy producer, and we was gonna, you know, for 2 days we was gonna hang out as a studio and just, you know, learn from him, because they had bigger fish to fry. They were doing the animation for Sinbad on the HBO Funk concert. So the guys that were above us was animators. They did the animation for Hieroglyphics album, commercial, made $30,000 in 3 days for 30 seconds. So paying $25 for 30 seconds is nothing, because the people I used to work with in 1996 was getting $1,000 a second for doing commercials and stuff, animation and stuff like that. So anyway, when Sinbad was doing his funk concert and you saw Sinbad dancing with the girls around him, or he's dancing on the screen while Earth, Wind & Fire is singing, I was with that company. That company had an office. Somebody built the office in their garage. That's how small the office was. But we went down to LA to meet a real producer, because he was involved with Earth, Wind & Fire and all that. To make a long story short, he was really cool with the other producers, right? And the other producers thought that they had built a camaraderie or some kind of friendship within, 2 days. And, he said, yeah, if you're ever around, you could drop by anytime. If I'm here, it's cool to come through. Now, he knew that we all lived far away, right? And it was just Hollywood talk. But 2 of the producers they went and found the apartment in his city and moved into an apartment not too far from him, thinking that they could really drop by and come by the studio whenever they wanted. And that's what I'm saying. When you say things that really has no meaning, and you say, let's do lunch, you're not really saying let's do lunch. You're just saying it's nice meeting you. And, till we meet again. It don't really mean let's do lunch. Did I catch the dragging? Of who? So many people is being dragged right now. So many people is being dragged and drugged, and I want to see who can drag themselves out of the trenches, who can redeem themselves. That's what impressed me. Redemption and the ability to turn your image around. Look, I don't know who the slag is, but I did notice that LA and all those guys have discovered this part of town, I guess via Beasley. But it's interesting to see how many more people is going to come around and how that's going to turn out. Yeah, I heard LA on Diva's show talking, roasting Beasley, and I said, "Oh no, this is Pandora's box right here." So I'm just in the background eating popcorn. I ain't saying nothing, and they don't know me. They don't know me as His Lordship. Beasley don't know me as His Lordship. LA definitely don't know me as His Lordship. So I'm cool. Oh, Suey dragged Jazzy. Wow. Well, I'm gonna go look for that. I'm gonna look for that and see if I find anything interesting. But on my last video, you can see Jazzy with Babaji, in the ocean. You know, Jazzy and all of them. I was surprised who was there. You know, they looked pretty happy. You know, and you got to catch that last video. Oh, okay. He's James Brown. Got it. There's a great picture of him and Babaji too on my last video. You know, but I think the best picture is a surprise. So if you replay my last video, they're in the ocean, having a great time in the water. But there's some close-up shots, some cameo shots, and everybody wanted a picture with the chief. So you will be amazed of who put their arm around Babaji and act like it was the greatest thing on earth. Like, this is my long lost brother. You know what I'm saying? You got to see that video if you haven't seen it. So yeah, get up close to your screen. Turn your sound all the way up. Turn your headphones all the way up, because you're about to have a surround sound, very visual 360 experience. And I just want to say peace and hair grease.
Yo, man, I don't think they heard you. Why don't you tell them what your name is?